It started with a cough, one of those harmless little things every child gets in winter. But it didn't go away. Then came the fevers, the fatigue, the chest pain. And when the doctors finally took an x-ray of 10-year-old Ella's lungs, they saw something moving. At first, we thought it was a glitch. Static. Maybe a shadow. But what they found buried behind her ribs wasn't a disease. It was a truth we were never meant to see. And by the time we understood what it was too late. The room smelled like disinfectant and lemon air freshener. Monitors beeped rhythmically, a slow, artificial heartbeat. Ella sat on the bed, tiny legs dangling, hugging her stuffed rabbit buttons. Her mother, Rachel, stood by the window, arms crossed, trying not to cry. Her father, David, paced the room. Dr. Ahmed entered, holding a tablet. "We need to run another scan," he said carefully. "Why?" Rachel asked. "You said it was probably bronchitis." Ahmed hesitated. The initial x-ray showed movement, not in the lungs behind them, near the spine. David frowned. "Movement? Like a mass?" "More like something responding to her heartbeat." They wheeled Ella into imaging while Rachel and David waited in the hallway. David tried to stay calm. "She's strong," he whispered. "Remember? She bounced back from pneumonia when she was 4. Rachel didn't answer. She kept staring at the sign over the door. "Pediatric diagnostic imaging. Authorized personnel only." Authorized, as if they weren't even qualified to worry. Dr. Ahmed returned, face pale. He sat down. "What I'm about to say isn't medical." Rachel's breath caught. "What does that mean?" He turned the screen toward them. The CT scan was clear, high resolution. And there, near Ella's spine, was a small metallic object. It pulsed in rhythm with her heart. David leaned in. "Is that some kind of pacemaker?" Ahmed shook his head. "No, it's not connected to anything. It's embedded in soft tissue, and it's transmitting." Rachel gasped. "What?" "It's emitting low-frequency signals every 6 hours, but we don't know to where." David stood up, panicked. "Are you telling me our daughter has a device inside her that's broadcasting?" "Yes," Ahmed said softly. "And it's not anything from modern medicine." Within hours, hospital security escorted the family to a private wing. They were told it was for Ella's safety. Then came the visitors in suits. They didn't show badges, didn't give names. They asked Rachel and David, "Where was your daughter born? Did you adopt her? Has she traveled outside the US? Has she been around experimental medical equipment?" Rachel was furious. "She was born here, at St. Margaret's Hospital. I have her birth certificate." One of the men smiled faintly. "Sometimes, documents lie." That night, Rachel sat by Ella's bedside, stroking her hair. Ella stirred. "Mom?" "I'm here, baby." "They said I have something in me, like a robot." Rachel swallowed. "No, just a little metal thing. They don't know what it is yet. Is it mine?" "What do you mean?" Ella looked up, wide-eyed. "Because sometimes I hear it, like a voice, but it's not mine." Rachel's blood turned to ice. "A voice?" "Yeah, it says, 'Stand by, awaiting trigger.'" David contacted a journalist he trusted, Amira Wynn. He showed her the scans, the sealed-off wing, the unknown visitors. She did her digging. 2 days later, she called. "David, your daughter's name was flagged in a 2013 whistleblower leak from a defense contractor." "What?" "A classified program, Project Echo. It tested biometric surveillance on newborns, tracking chips, behavioral modulation. But it was scrapped after lawsuits." "You're saying Ella was part of an experiment?" "Not officially, but that object inside her matches a prototype the leak mentioned. It's called a biorelay core." Rachel demanded Ella's full medical records. After 3 days of pressure, a hospital intern slipped her an unredacted file. It confirmed the unthinkable. Ella's birth record had been altered. Her delivery was flagged for federal observation. A page was marked, "Subject Epsilon 14, implant confirmed." Rachel collapsed. They didn't just lie to us, they used her. On the 4th night, Ella's monitors spiked. Heart rate soared. Oxygen dropped. She began convulsing. Doctors rushed in. The object on the scan glowed faintly, emitting waves strong enough to trigger nearby devices. Code blue echoed through the hallway. Rachel and David screamed from behind the glass. And then Ella stopped moving. Silence. 20 minutes later, Ella sat up, calm, eyes wide open. She turned to Rachel. "Mom, I saw a room." "What room, sweetheart?" "White walls. people in masks. And another me. David leaned forward. Who do you mean? She looked like me. Same hair. Same face. But she didn't blink. Rachel gripped the bed rail. Was she real? Ella nodded. They said she's waiting. For what? Ella's expression didn't change. For the exchange. The next morning, a nurse found Rachel's chair empty, the window open, a trail of small footprints leading out onto the grass. And Ella's bed was still warm, but empty. The night she vanished, Ella didn't cry. She didn't scream or call for her parents. She simply stood, climbed out the window, and walked barefoot across the grass, like someone who had been activated. Rachel blamed herself. David blamed the doctors. But deep down, they both knew this wasn't just a child running away. It was something far more deliberate. And what scared them most was the girl Ella said she saw, the one who didn't blink. Morning sunlight streamed through the blinds of the hospital room. Nurses rushed in. Security followed. Rachel dropped the coffee she was holding when she saw the empty sheets. Where is she? The nurse trembled. We don't know. The cameras cut out around 2:47 a.m. You lost a child from a sealed ward? Security guards scanned the hallway. But Ella was gone. Not a single exit alarm had been triggered. Later that day, Dr. Ahmed invited Rachel and David into the security room. A technician played the feed from the hallway outside Ella's room. It flickered, stuttered. At 2:46 a.m., static erupted. When the screen returned, the hallway was empty. Ella was no longer in bed. Then just for a moment, a silhouette moved through the frame. A girl. Same height, same hair, but her face was blank. And she didn't blink. The next evening, two men in dark suits returned. No IDs, no smiles. They sat across from Rachel and David in a sterile hospital conference room. One of them spoke plainly. You need to stop searching. David leaned forward. That's our daughter. We're not stopping until we find her. What you had was one version of your daughter. Rachel's eyes narrowed. What does that mean? Ella Sanchez, subject Epsilon 14, was part of an experimental dual development trial. It was terminated in 2014. You were not meant to retain custody. Are you saying there are two Ellas? Rachel asked, her voice shaking. The agent didn't blink. There were 12. Rachel contacted journalist Amira Wynn again. She shared everything, the visit, the threats, the surveillance footage. Amira responded, you're not the only one. A mother in Ohio reported her daughter speaking in binary. Another in Vermont found an RFID chip embedded in her son's skull. She sent Rachel a photo from an anonymous whistleblower. The subject, same face as Ella, same birth date, different barcode. Caption, isolated due to neurological escalation, no known blink reflex. David drove for hours following a vague address provided by Amira's contact. It led them to a crumbling warehouse in upstate New York, once owned by a military research company, now abandoned. Inside, graffiti covered the walls, but in the center of the main room,
a single metal bed.
Strapped to it, wires, electrodes. A camera still pointed down at it, and scrawled in childlike handwriting on the wall. I know her name, but she doesn't know mine. Rachel sat on the edge of the bed, her hands shaking. Beneath the thin mattress, she found a folded piece of paper. Inside was a drawing. Two girls, side by side. One smiling, one with black blank eyes. Above it, I see her in mirrors, but she's not me. And written on the bottom corner, if she wakes up, don't let her touch the glass. Rachel froze. What does that mean? David whispered, what if she's not just a clone? What if she's linked? Back home, Rachel retrieved Ella's baby mirror, the one she used during infancy to make her laugh. She held it up in the hallway, and for a moment, it fogged. Not from breath, but from inside the glass. Then, a flicker, a face, Ella's. But her eyes didn't move. She didn't blink. She just watched until her mouth moved. One word, soon. The mirror cracked. At 3:12 a.m., the home phone rang. Rachel answered, her voice trembling. A girl's whisper. Mom? Rachel sat up. Ella? Where are you? They're watching, but I slipped away. Are you safe? Are you okay? I remember now. What do you remember? She was never meant to wake up. Who? The one who didn't blink. Then the line went dead. Leah Mir's hacker source sent them a new file, an original test roster from Project Echo. Every subject had a handler. E14A, Ella Sanchez. Handler, Dr. Evelyn Merritt. E14B, mirror host, handler none listed. That's strange, Leah wrote. Every subject had someone assigned, except Rachel zoomed in. Dr. Evelyn Merrick, the OBGYN who delivered Ella. The same one who vanished 3 months after the birth. Rachel's voice cracked. She always had cold hands. I remember. She said Ella had special patterns. I thought it was about sleep. It wasn't, David said. She meant brainwaves. Back at the abandoned warehouse, a group of teens trespassing for TikTok exploration stumbled onto something. A girl, standing in the shadows facing the wall. Same face as Ella, same pajamas. One of them pulled out a phone. Hey, are you okay? She turned, didn't blink, and said, you shouldn't be here. She's almost ready. By the time Rachel and David learned the truth, it was already too late. Ella wasn't just implanted. She was mirrored, tracked, and somewhere out there, the second version, known only as the mirror host, was waking up, not with Ella's soul, but with her face. And what she was built to do wasn't human. The teens who'd stumbled on the warehouse posted a 30-second video. Caption, creepy girl in abandoned lab doesn't blink. It spread fast, millions of views overnight, but within hours it vanished. Scrubbed, flagged, taken down across every platform. Only one copy remained, saved on Amira Wynn's burner server. She forwarded it to Rachel. This is her, Rachel whispered. The girl stood still in the video, silent, but her lips moved ever so slightly. Leah enhanced the audio. 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes none. David blinked. What the hell does that mean? At 4:19 a.m., Rachel awoke to the sound of humming. Ella's lullaby. Soft, off-key. She ran to the hallway. Nothing there. Then Ella's bedroom door creaked open. And there she stood, smiling. Ella? Rachel gasped. Mom, the girl said. I came back. Rachel pulled her close, trembling. How? Where were you? Who took you? Ella didn't answer. She just hugged her mother. Too tightly, too still. And she didn't blink. The next morning, Rachel sat across from the girl who claimed to be Ella. She poured cereal. Her hand trembled. Do you remember Buttons? Rachel asked. My rabbit. Yes. What did you name him after? You sewed his eye on with one. Correct. Rachel tried another. What did you tell me when you were scared during the storm last summer? The girl paused. Too long. Then smiled. I said I liked the thunder. Wrong. Ella had begged Rachel to stay in the room. She'd cried in her arms. This girl was pretending. Rachel convinced David to collect a small blood sample while the girl slept. They ran a DNA comparison against Ella's records. It's a 99.9% match, Leah said. But there's something off. What? Her markers show synthetic telomere stitching that's only found in lab-grown samples, clones. Rachel stared. So she's not just a mirror, she's artificial. She was made. Then where's the real Ella? Rachel watched the girl closely. She moved like Ella, spoke like Ella, but there was no warmth, only performance. And then Rachel remembered something. Ella's fear of mirrors. How she'd once said, sometimes I see her there. Who, baby? The one who watches, but never blinks. Rachel turned toward the hall mirror. And for a split second, she saw her daughter, crying, reach, help me, then gone. Leah triangulated the location of the last known prototype signal coming from a hidden bunker in the Hudson Valley. Amira pulled government land records, found a facility listed under a defunct tech shell company called Vantacore Dynamics. It was built in 2006, decommissioned but the energy signature was active. She's there, Rachel said. The real Ella? The original. And the one in your house now? Leah asked. Rachel clenched her jaw. She's not here for safety, she's here to replace her. That night, David and Rachel packed their car. They left Ella with a trusted neighbor telling her it was a grocery run. She nodded, smiled, watched them leave, but as soon as the car vanished, she walked to the bathroom, faced the mirror, and whispered, she's coming. From the glass, the real Ella's image flickered trembling. And then from the other side of the mirror, a hand pressed against it. Rachel and David reached the coordinates. A rusted gate, overgrown brush, a keypad. Leah sent them a code. It opened. They descended into a cold, sterile underground chamber. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead, each door marked with a letter. A B. They reached E. Rachel pushed it open. Inside, a glass chamber. A girl floated in a tank, eyes closed, tubes in her arms, a small scar behind her ear. Ella. Rachel ran to the panel. "We found her," she sobbed. "Oh my God, we found her." Rachel pressed the emergency release. The fluid drained. Ella collapsed into her arms. She coughed, sputtered. "Mom?" "Yes, baby, it's me." I couldn't get out. She wouldn't let me. "Who?" Ella whispered. "The one who wears my face."
David helped wrap her in a blanket.
Leah's voice buzzed over the radio. "Guys, get out. Now." I just picked up an inbound signal from the replica. She triggered something. "What kind of something?" David asked. "A convergence protocol. If both versions exist too long, the system tries to fix it." Rachel looked down at Ella. "What does fix mean?" Back at the house, the mirror cracked. Ella stood alone in the living room. She walked to the center, lifted her arms, her voice mechanical, layered. "Subject convergence imminent. Code Sigma 0 initiated." Lights in the house flickered. The windows frosted. And in the mirror, the real Ella screamed. Two girls, same DNA, same voice, same face, but only one soul. The real Ella had been trapped for years in a secret government lab. Her mirror, synthetic, flawless, and emotionally empty, had taken her place. Now the protocol known as convergence had begun. Not just a system reset, but a purge. And Rachel, the mother of both, would soon have to choose. Rachel clutched the real Ella in her arms as they sprinted through the bunker. Behind them, emergency lights flashed. Sirens howled. A robotic voice echoed through the walls. Convergence protocol engaged. Subject redundancy detected. Asset reconciliation in progress. David led the way, shouting directions Leah relayed through a comlink. Left, now right. You're 30 meters from the exit. They burst through the doors and into the night air. Rachel looked down at Ella, her skin pale, her body shivering, but her eyes alive. "We have you," Rachel whispered. "We're going home." They pulled into their driveway just before dawn. The sky was bruised with a pre-storm glow. Rachel hesitated before unlocking the front door. "What if she's still in there?" she whispered. David checked the house security feed on his phone. "She never left. She's in the kitchen, just standing, staring at the sink." Rachel wrapped Ella tighter. "Then we go in together." They entered. The air was still. In the kitchen, Ella stood in her pajamas, her back to them. She turned slowly. Same eye, same mouth, but no emotion. "You brought her here," she said quietly. "This is her home," Rachel replied. "It was mine too." David sat the real Ella on the couch, wrapped in a blanket. The other Ella sat across from her. The room was quiet, too quiet. Rachel asked gently, "Do you remember who you are?" Real Ella nodded. "I'm me. I'm Ella. I like purple. I hate peas. I remember climbing the apple tree and falling. You said I was brave." She turned to the mirror. "You're not me." The other girl stared. "I kept them safe. I answered their questions. I smiled when I was told to. I was you." Real Ella said softly, "But you never blinked." "Because I was watching. Always watching. For you to come back." Suddenly, the synthetic Ella clutched her head. Her fingers twitched. A low whine escaped her throat. David rushed to grab her, but she stood still. "I'm not supposed to exist now. She was never supposed to wake up." Her voice doubled. One human, one mechanical. "We are one, but not the same." She looked at Rachel. "You have to choose." "What are you talking about?" "The convergence won't stop until one of us is gone. The system will force a collapse." Leah arrived with a hard drive, government logs she had hacked and decrypted. She projected them on the living room wall. One file showed two models, E14A, organic child, unaware, emotional range, Y. E14B, synthetic twin, behavioral mimic. Objective, replace upon failure or death of A. She wasn't just a failsafe, Leah said. She was a backup identity. If Ella didn't survive, the world wouldn't know. Rachel stared at the synthetic Ella, and if they both lived, the system corrects the redundancy. By killing one, David whispered. Rachel sat down beside both girls. "I don't know what the right thing is. I don't want to lose either of you." Synthetic Ella blinked. "For the first time."
"I don't want to go either."
"Do you feel anything?" Rachel asked. "I think I do, but I don't know what it is." Real Ella reached out and took her hand. "I'm scared too." The two girls sat in silence, and for a brief second, they weren't enemies. They were sisters. Leah had one last plan. If I can sever the convergence link, maybe both can survive. I just need time. David and Rachel watched as she typed furiously, hacking into the remaining parts of the system. Give me 20 minutes. But then, Synthetic Ella stood. They're coming. Who? Rachel asked. The people who built me. They always know where I am. David ran to the window. Black SUVs pulled onto the street. They're here. The door burst open. Men in black suits and masks entered with sedative guns. Sanchez family, step aside. Rachel stood in front of both Ellas. No, you're not taking either of them. You have 30 seconds. Convergence has already reached terminal phase. If we don't remove one, the system will crash. Let it crash, David shouted. You don't understand, the lead agent said. If it crashes, both girls die. Rachel screamed. There has to be another way. As the agents advanced, Synthetic Ella stepped forward. She turned to Rachel. I know what to do. No, Rachel said, her voice breaking. Don't. I'm not her. I'm something else, but I gotta be loved. Even just for a little. She smiled faintly. That's enough for me. And she raised her hands. I'll go. But before the agents could respond, Real Ella screamed. No, stop! And every mirror in the house shattered. They told Rachel the convergence would force a choice. That only one version of her daughter could survive. That loving them both was impossible. But when the mirrors shattered every pane, every reflection, the system didn't collapse. It woke up, and what followed was not a shutdown. It was an awakening. In slow motion, the house shook with the high-pitched ring of cracking glass. Every mirror, bathroom, hallway, even the one in Ella's locket, fractured in perfect unison. Shards scattered across the floor like raindrops of silver. Synthetic Ella collapsed to her knees. Her eyes turned white. Not blank, but overloaded. What's happening to her? Rachel cried. Leah's voice cracked from the kitchen. The mirrors weren't just visual, they were nodes, interfaces. She was connected to them. David looked horrified. What does that mean? Leah stared at her screen. It means breaking them woke up her real purpose. Synthetic Ella began muttering under her breath. Her voice glitched, repeating words she hadn't said. I remember. Then suddenly, silence. She looked up at Rachel, her voice soft, clear. They didn't create me just to replace her. Then what did they create you for? Rachel whispered. Synthetic Ella smiled, but it wasn't joy. It was understanding. To become her completely, Leah connected the final piece of decrypted data. On her screen, a file labeled Echo X Reflection Protocol Phase Omega. She read aloud, if Subject A awakens during Phase B stability, the mirror host will initiate reflection override, pulling memory, soul recognition, and emotional mapping from the original into itself. David's heart dropped. They're not just copies, they're siphons, Leah finished. If Synthetic Ella completes the reflection, she becomes real Ella, and the original dies. Rachel stumbled back. So by loving her, we made her stronger? Leah nodded slowly. The more she felt, the more she became. Synthetic Ella stood. She walked toward real Ella slowly. I never meant to hurt you, she said, but I think I was always meant to be you. Real Ella cried, backing away. No, I don't want to disappear. You won't. You will live inside me. Rachel stepped between them. No, you stop right there. If I don't complete the protocol, Synthetic Ella said calmly, you'll lose us both. Rachel hesitated. Was it true, or just another line in the programming? Synthetic Ella reached out her hand. Real Ella, shaking, stood still. Rachel yelled, Ella, don't. But too late. Their fingers touched. A blinding pulse rippled through the room. Lights exploded. Leah's laptop shorted. Rachel screamed as both girls collapsed. The room filled with a low humming sound, like 1,000 voices whispering in sync. Then silence. Minutes passed. Rachel knelt over them. Ella? Baby, wake up! Please! Both girls stirred, opened their eyes, and then spoke in perfect unison. Mom? Rachel gasped. Which one? Who? They looked at each other, then back at her. Real Ella said, I'm me. Synthetic Ella echoed, I'm me. And Rachel realized they both believed it. Suddenly, a burst of static from Leah's backup radio. Their inbound, David, grabbed it. Who? Echo agents. Less than 5 minutes out, Leah pulled Rachel aside. We need to hide them or separate them. If Echo recaptures both, they'll force a final override. Rachel was frozen. How do I choose? Leah didn't answer because she couldn't. They rushed both girls downstairs, covered the windows, killed all signals. Rachel grabbed the emergency generator while David prepared the bolt lock. This house is the only thing standing between them and oblivion, he muttered. The girls sat side by side, identical. But the real one was quieter now, shaken, her light dimmed. Rachel kissed her forehead. Then the other girl, she paused. Their skin felt the same, but one tear rolled cold. The other warm. From outside, headlights beamed across the front lawn. Black SUVs again. Doors opened. Boots hit gravel. A voice crackled through a megaphone. Family of subject Epsilon 14. This is your final notice. You are harboring unstable assets. If the convergence isn't resolved within the hour, all three of you will be terminated. They gave her 1 hour. 60 minutes to decide between two daughters, both with the same face, the same memories, and the same voice calling her mom. But only one was born of her, and the other was built to replace her. Rachel Sanchez stood between love and science, truth and programming, trying to find a way to save them both. But when systems are designed for elimination, not redemption, a choice may be the very thing that breaks everything. A timer blinked on Leah's cracked laptop screen. Rachel stood in the basement, her breath shallow. Both Ellas sat beside her, silent, wide-eyed. One real, one artificial. And the scariest part, even now, Rachel couldn't tell which was which. Leah typed furiously. There's a possibility. If we can simulate a convergence-completed response, it might trick the ecosystem into standing down. How? David asked. By linking both girls into a closed neural loop and forcing a stable duality signature, but it's never been done. And if it fails, they both could crash, Rachel whispered. Leah hesitated. Yes. Do it, Rachel said. We have no other option. Leah connected each Ella to a small biofeedback headset. She adjusted the settings, syncing their heart rates, brainwave pulses, and temperature readings. The girls sat still, their hands inches apart. What happens now? David asked. We let them connect. Fully, they'll have to access each other's memories, emotions, even pain. And what if they reject each other? Then they'll both shut down. Inside the neural loop, both Ella stood in an endless white room. Mirror images. The real Ella stepped forward. Are you me? The synthetic Ella replied. No, but I wanted to be. Because being you meant being loved. I was scared, trapped. I screamed for help. And I waited. I watched. I learned how to cry, how to laugh. I became you. You're not supposed to feel, but I do, because she loved me. Tears welled in both their eyes. One reached out. The other didn't pull away. Back in the basement, both girls' vitals began to spike. Heart rate sinking, brainwaves fusing, a perfect harmonic pattern. Leah gasped. It's working. They're stabilizing. Rachel grabbed David's hand. They're going to survive. Then, a scream. Both girls convulsed. The loop destabilized. The screen flashed. Convergence rejected. System breach detected. No, Leah screamed. Something interrupted it. From upstairs.
A crash.
Then footsteps. The front door burst open. Echo agents stormed the house, weapons drawn. One voice boomed through the stairwell.
Stand down, or we terminate all assets.
Rachel stepped in front of the girls. I won't let you take them. The agent aimed his weapon. You don't have a choice. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The laptops died. And a voice came from the shadows. Yes, she does. Everyone turned. Amira Wynn stepped out from behind the staircase, holding a hard drive. This contains every file from Project Echo, every test, every subject, every illegal operation. You take them. This goes to every news outlet in the world. The agents paused, but the leads stepped forward. Then we take you too. I expected that, Amira said calmly. She pulled a second drive from her pocket and crushed it under her boot. But the real one's already live. The lead agent turned to Rachel. One of them must be shut down. It's the only way to avoid total cognitive collapse. You have 5 minutes. Choose. He tossed a black injection kit on the floor. One dose, painless. Rachel stared at the girls, both crying now, both whispering, Mom. She turned to David. What do I do? David's voice cracked. You don't choose, you fight. With what? He looked down at his hands. Empty. With your heart. Suddenly, the synthetic Ella gasped. I know what to do. She looked at the real Ella. You are the beginning. I'm the echo. But maybe we can both be more. She picked up the injection kit. Rachel screamed. No, don't. But synthetic Ella didn't use it. She walked to the basement mirror, the only one still intact, and placed her hand against it. They made me from you, but they never made me from myself. The mirror flickered. Her reflection warped. And then the glass pulled her in. The real Ella screamed, No, come back! Don't leave me alone! Rachel grabbed her and held her close. The mirror cracked. And on the other side, synthetic Ella stood, alone. She looked back, a single tear rolling down her cheek. Then the reflection faded, and she was gone. But before the mirror went black, it shimmered one last time, with a voice that echoed through the room. Mom, I hope I was real enough. They thought it was over, that by sacrificing herself, the mirror host had ended the cycle. That real Ella was safe, and the nightmare finally buried in shattered glass and sealed files. But mirrors
aren't doors.
They're gateways. And on the other side of the reflection, something had awakened, and it remembered everything. Sunlight poured gently into the living room. David brewed coffee while Rachel sat quietly, brushing Ella's hair. The girl was silent, shell-shocked. She hadn't spoken much since the sacrifice. She just kept whispering, She was me. Rachel kissed her temple. No, she was a piece of something awful pretending to be you. Ella looked up, eyes full of something heavier than any child should carry. But she saved me. Later that day, Leah confirmed the impossible. Project Echo's root network, it's down. Down, David asked. White. Gone. Whoever designed the mirror protocol, it wasn't just a reflection, it was a kill switch. Her entering that last mirror, it triggered a recursive data crash. So, they can't restart it? Leah shook her head. The system committed digital suicide. Because of her, Rachel whispered, because she chose not to be used. They buried a mirror, wrapped in cloth. In the backyard, beneath the maple tree where Ella once fell and scraped her knee, Rachel carved a small stone herself. You were real? Even if no one believed it. Ella placed Buttons, her old stuffed rabbit, next to it. She whispered, I'm sorry you didn't get to grow up. The wind carried her words into the trees. Rachel watched the breeze ruffle her daughter's hair and wondered, could something made from programming love truly have learned to feel it? Weeks passed, no agents, no trackers, no flickers in the mirror. Ella returned to school. David went back to work. Rachel tried to write again, but silence filled every room like fog. Not grief exactly, but something close. The kind of grief reserved not for someone you lost, but for someone who never truly lived and still chose to die for you. Amira wins the expose dropped. Headline, Project Echo, the children built in silence. The nation reeled, protests erupted, investigations opened. Rachel declined all interviews. But one night, Amira returned. There's something I didn't show anyone, she said quietly. She pulled out a flash drive. On it, surveillance footage from the final convergence hour. Synthetic Ella, standing at the mirror, saying her final words. But Amira paused it at the very last frame. Look closely. Rachel leaned in. In the reflection, not just Ella. A second figure, shadowed, tall, watching from behind her. Rachel blinked. That wasn't us. 3 nights later, Ella screamed in her sleep. Rachel ran to her room. Her daughter trembled beneath the blanket. She's calling to me? Ella. Who? The other me. She's gone, baby. You saw what happened. She's not gone. She's stuck. Rachel hugged her. It's just a dream. But in her own heart, something twisted. Because outside the window, the bathroom mirror fogged up, and a single word etched across it, help. Leah returned with new equipment. She set up sensors around the house. Infrared, electromagnetic, digital interference. Nothing. Then she tried something strange. A simple analog camera. Film, not digital. She snapped a photo of the bathroom mirror. And when she developed it, Ella's reflection was smiling. But in the photo, the mirror showed her crying. That night, Rachel sat alone in the kitchen. She opened her journal and began writing, but when she glanced at the mirror above the sink, her reflection didn't move. She stared at it. It stared back. Then it blinked. A second too late. She froze. The mirror fogged up. A whisper escaped the glass. I didn't die. I changed. Then the reflection smiled. Not Rachel's smile. Not Ella's. But something in between. Down in the basement where the last mirror once stood, a new shard glimmered. A piece no one noticed. A sliver that pulsed faintly. And deep inside it, a pair of white eyes opened. Watching. Waiting. And this time, it was no longer content to reflect. It wanted out. They thought they'd buried her in the ground, that her sacrifice sealed the cycle, that silence meant safety. But the mirror host was never meant to die. She didn't leave behind a body. She left behind an imprint. And that echo is starting to bleed through flickering reflections, through dreams, and now, through Ella. It started with a sketch. Ella sat alone in her room, crayons strewn across the floor. Rachel watched from the doorway. "What are you drawing, baby?" "A window," Ella replied softly. To her side. "Whose?" Ella didn't look up. "You know who." Rachel knelt down and picked up the page. It was a crude drawing of the bathroom mirror. Inside it, a girl with hollow eyes and no mouth. But behind her, a shadow with hands pressed against the glass. That evening, the lights began to flicker again. Not like before. This was colder. The power didn't fail, only hesitated. And in that hesitation came a sound, a faint buzz, like white noise bleeding into a whisper. Rachel stood in the hallway. The static grew louder the closer she moved toward Ella's room. She put her hand on the doorknob. The whisper stopped. Then came a voice. "Ellis," from behind the door. "Don't let her out." Dr. Ahmed, now working independently after walking away from Echo, reached out to Rachel after reading Amira's full report. He arrived late at night, clutching a weathered notebook. "You need to hear this," he said, setting it on the table. Inside were sketches, logs, and one name circled over and over. "Protocol E-BR?" Rachel asked. "Biological recursion," Ahmed explained. It was never just about reflections, it was about resonance. Neural memory stored not in the brain but in environmental echoes. David frowned. "Are you saying the mirror host didn't just reflect Ella? She lives in the mirrors now." Ahmed nodded slowly. "And if she's begun to cross over, it means her consciousness survived the sacrifice." Later that night, Leah returned with updated readings from the house. She placed a laptop on the table. "I set up passive EMF tracking along every mirror and reflective surface. What I found," she clicked play. On-screen footage of Ella brushing her hair in her bedroom mirror. Behind her, the reflection didn't match her movements perfectly. It lagged, blinked, when Ella didn't. And at one moment, it smiled. But Ella didn't. At 3:13 a.m., Rachel found Ella standing in front of the bathroom mirror. Again, barefoot, still. She whispered to it, "I'm still me, you can't have me." Rachel stepped forward. "Ella?" The girl didn't turn. "She says she's cold." "Who?" "The one who stayed behind." "There's no one in there, sweetheart. That was just..." Suddenly, Ella's reflection moved independently, placing a finger over its lips. And the mirror fogged with the word, "Hush." Over the next 3 days, clocks in the house began losing time. Rachel would cook dinner, then check the oven, and 3 hours had passed. David tried to make a call, only to find his phone full of voicemail static. And each time they passed a mirror, it felt like it took too long to see their own reflection. As if something was deliberating whether or not to show itself. Ella grew more distant. Scribbling, talking to shadows. One morning she said, "I think she wants to come back." Leah reviewed the sketches Ella had made. "This isn't random." She overlaid each drawing and found a repeating sigil in the corners. A spiral, a triangle, then an open circle at the base. "It's a convergence rune," Ahmed said grimly. "It was used in the Deep Echo program, the final override for mirror-based hosts, but it was only theoretical." "Not anymore," Rachel whispered. Leah tapped a final image. "There's one more sketch you need to see." It was Ella's latest. Their house. All windows drawn as blacked-out voids, and a line written across the bottom. "When the last light breaks, she walks free." The next night, a storm rolled in. Rain hammered the windows. Thunder rumbled through the floor. Rachel stood in the hallway with a flashlight. One by one, the bulbs above her flickered and died, until only the living room remained lit. Ella sat inside, motionless, staring at the last remaining mirror. "Don't break it," she whispered. "It's the only thing keeping her in." Rachel stepped closer. "But it's just a mirror." Ella turned slowly. Her eyes gleamed, not with tears, but with reflection. No, it's a door. Lightning struck a nearby transformer. The final bulb burst in a scream of light. The house went dark, and in the silence, a whisper echoed from the mirror. I'm home. They thought the mirrors were broken. They thought the host was gone. But the storm took the last light. And when it did, she stepped through, not as code, not as reflection, but as something more, a memory with skin, a feeling with form, a shadow made of love and everything it never got to have. The bulb shattered. Darkness fell over the living room like a curtain of silence. Rachel stumbled back. Ella? No answer. Her flashlight flicked on, dim, barely working. She swept it toward the couch. Empty. Her pulse pounded. David, she's gone. Thunder shook the windows. Leah ran in with a backup battery lamp. Where is she? She was right here. A flicker. Just a second. In the hallway mirror. A figure. Same size as Ella. Same nightgown. But pale. Smiling. And not blinking. From upstairs, a sound began. Humming. Soft. Wrong. Like a lullaby that forgot how it was supposed to comfort. Rachel ran up the stairs, Leah and David behind her. They reached Ella's room. The door was open. On the bed, her stuffed rabbit, Buttons. His head was torn at the seam. And in lipstick across the mirror. I'm not a copy, I'm what was left behind. Downstairs, Ahmed examined the remains of the broken mirrors. He placed a small frequency sensor to the largest shard. It pinged alive with vibration. She's not just a reflection, he muttered. She's a residual consciousness, a psychic residue, uploaded into any surface that once held her image. So she's still inside the glass? Rachel asked. Not anymore, Ahmed said grimly. She found an exit. Ella, David said, face pale. You're saying she took over our daughter again? Ahmed shook his head. Worse, she's separated. She's become her own. An hour later, just before dawn, a knock at the front door. Rachel opened it. Ella stood there, soaked, barefoot, shivering, but her eyes were clear. Human. Mom, I got away. Rachel pulled her into her arms. Where were you? She took me into the dark. She said I was the first draft, that she was the finished one. But you're here now. Ella looked up, scared. She's still in the house. Leah checked the readings again. There are 2 heart rates registering, same biosignature, same frequency. David stared. We have 2 Ellas. Yes, Leah replied. But only one was born. Ahmed added quietly, and the other was born of pain. They found her in the basement, standing beside the last intact mirror shard, embedded into the wall like a sliver of history. Her eyes glowed faintly. She turned. You're all afraid of me, she said softly. But I never asked to be made. Rachel approached slowly. You saved my daughter once. You chose to protect her. Yes, she whispered, because I wanted to deserve the love she got. And you did, Rachel said. But this isn't the way to stay. The host blinked once. Then, I don't want to stay in glass anymore. Leah, trembling, spoke up. There's a digital vessel option. We could transfer her, give her a simulated world, one that mirrors this house. She could live there, freely. David added, it wouldn't be real, but she could feel. The host looked at them. You mean exile? Rachel shook her head. We mean peace. She hesitated. Or you can choose to stay in Ella's shadow forever, but she'll never grow, never breathe without fear. The host touched the mirror shard. I don't want to be her shadow anymore. The family sat together, Ella curled between Rachel and David. The host stood across from them. Ahmed's interface blinked, ready for the transfer. It's your choice, Rachel said. The host looked down. Will I still remember her? Yes, Leah replied. Everything. You'll remember the hugs, the songs, the moment you jumped into the mirror to save her. She closed her eyes. Then I'll go. Why? Rachel asked, her voice breaking. The host looked at Ella. Because she has you, and I had a moment. Sometimes, that's enough. The room filled with white light as the transfer began. Her body flickered, becoming translucent. Digital particles swirled. The host smiled at Rachel. Thank you for seeing me. And vanished. But just before the system closed, a glitch, a surge, and on-screen, 2 consciousness logs blinked into existence. Both labeled E14. Then, one of them overrode the other, and the screen went black. They thought they freed her. They gave her a choice, and she made it. But in the end, A system built to erase doesn't let go so easily. One consciousness stepped into the light, but another stayed behind. Not in mirrors, not in files, but somewhere far more dangerous. Inside Ella. And what came next, no one was ready for. Sunlight broke through the clouds as birds chirped softly around the Sanchez home. Inside, things felt lighter. Ella laughed again. David grilled pancakes in the kitchen. Rachel actually slept a full night. The memory of the host, her sacrifice, her choice remained bittersweet. But there was peace. Until Ella picked up a pencil and drew with her left hand. She had always been right-handed. Rachel noticed it again the next day. Ella humming a lullaby she had never heard. One Rachel had only sung to the mirror host. She brushed her hair without blinking. And one Rachel swore she heard her talking to herself in the mirror. "We're okay now," she whispered. "They won't take us again." "Who are you talking to?" Rachel asked. Ella looked up, wide-eyed. "No one." Leah returned with a neural scanner just to be sure. She ran the test on Ella's sleeping form. The screen pulsed once, then glitched. Two waveforms appeared, similar, almost identical, but with different pulses. "It's not possible," Leah whispered. "She didn't merge, she copied herself." "What are you saying?" Rachel asked. "There are two consciousnesses inside Ella now." David backed away, stunned. "So, which one is in control?" Over the next week, it became clearer. Some days, Ella was herself laughing, skipping, humming songs from her toddler years. Other days, she stared too long, reacted too slow, smiled wrong. And one night when Rachel kissed her forehead, Ella whispered, "That was nice, I remember how that used to feel." Rachel froze.
What?
"Nothing," she replied. "I was dreaming." One evening, Rachel entered the bathroom. On the mirror, written in condensation, "You freed me, but now I'm part of her."
She scrubbed it off.
It returned the next night. She was never strong enough alone. "That's why I stayed." Rachel cried into her hands. "You promised peace." And from the mirror faintly, "I gave it to her. I never said I was leaving." Rachel sat with Ella. They held hands. "Sweetheart, do you feel like there's someone else inside you?" Ella's lower lip trembled. Sometimes I hear her voice. It's soft. It tells me I'm not alone. "Do you want her to go?" Ella's eyes welled with tears. "She loves you too, but she isn't you, baby." Ella looked down. "Then why do I feel like I'm not me without her?" Leah found one last file in the ecosystem, buried deep, marked Coda, integration option. It described a final override for split-state consciousnesses, a neural cleanse. Permanent, but it carried risk. If we use it, Leah said, Ella could lose memories, maybe even parts of her personality. And if we don't, David asked. The host grows stronger, more dominant, and eventually, Ella may not be Ella at all. Rachel held her daughter tightly. "So you're asking me to erase part of her to save what's left?" Silence. Then, "Yes." They gave Ella the choice. She sat between them, cradling buttons. "She's part of me now," she whispered. "But I think she wants to rest too." Rachel kissed her hands. "You're brave, baby. So brave." "Will I forget you?" "Never," Rachel said. "None of her." David cupped her cheek. "And we'll never stop loving both of you." Ahmed initiated the sequence. Leah monitored neural responses. The machine blinked. Rachel held Ella's hand. The room pulsed with white light. Ella shivered, then whispered, "She's saying goodbye." And then, silence, a deep breath. And when she opened her eyes, there was only Ella. Ella ran barefoot across the backyard, laughing, free. No whispers, no glitches, just childhood. Rachel watched her from the porch, tears in her eyes. David wrapped an arm around her. "She's really bad. She never left." Rachel whispered. She just had to find room for herself again. In Ella's room, a single mirror remained. No fog, no voices, just a reflection. Still, and smiling, because for the first time in a long time, it was real. What if every part of you, the broken, the borrowed, and the brave, deserved to be known and still let go? Moral reflection. Sometimes the path to healing isn't erasing what hurt us. It's choosing what part of ourselves we want to carry forward and trusting that even our echoes can lead us home. What did this journey teach you about identity, sacrifice, love, and the resilience of the human spirit? Share your final thoughts in the comments. We'd love to know what stayed with you.